everybody, it's Mr. Wagstaff. Cool stuff to talk about today. So today we're starting Economic and Personal Finance, Unit 5. We're talking about taxation. So today we're going to be specifically talking about your paycheck and what that's going to look like, because if you've never had a job before and you've never received a paycheck, it's going to be a little surprising the first time you open it. So let's start talking about what your paycheck's going to look like and how taxes affect your paycheck today. Let's go ahead and get started. While you may have been in a math class or another class, and you're like, when am I ever going to use this in life? All right, like, and people sometimes will use it as an excuse because, hey, I'll never use it. That's not the case here. You're going to use this stuff all the time. All right. So this stuff is really important to understand so we can talk it through so you can be prepared for it when it hits you in the real world. So let's start today talking specifically about what's called payroll deductions. So you're going to get paid at your job. You get hired, here's the amount of hours that you're going to work, and here's how much money you're going to make per hour, or here's a salary. You're going to make $50,000 this year. All right, hooray. Well, hold on, because if you get a job in which you make $50,000 a year every year, you're not actually going to have $50,000 a year that you can spend. You're going to have way less than that, probably closer to, at $50,000, probably closer to in the 30s, some like $37,000, $38,000, possibly less than that. So let's talk about why that is, all right? So whenever we talk about that $50,000, what we're talking about is we're talking about your gross income. This is the number people always throw out, like, how much money do you make? Well, I make so-and-so amount of money, or whatever. That is the gross income. That is the amount that you are being paid by your employer. However, most of your gross income is not going to touch your pocket. So let's talk about what causes your money to go from your gross pay, like that $50,000, to the actual money that is in your pocket. All right. So what happens is you're going to get a paycheck. All right. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff already taken out of your paycheck. It's going to tell you what, you thought you were getting paid at the top. That'll match up. That's called your gross pay. Then it's going to take a whole bunch of stuff out. Those are called payroll deductions. And we're going to talk about these today, specifically on the things that get taken out of your pay. So involuntary deduction, meaning you don't have a choice in this. This is getting taken out of your paycheck. This is taken out by a variety of entities. FICA tax. FICA or FICA, that specifically is talking about Social Security and Medicare, which we'll talk about that. We'll actually break those two down. Your federal income tax, state and local taxes, garnishments. Like if you lose a lawsuit and you have to pay somebody money, that's a garnishment. That's very rare, but those are things that get taken out of your paycheck before you even get the final check, which is a lower number than what your gross pay is. So the term is, all right, net pay. Net pay is the amount of money that you get from working. So your gross pay is the amount that you thought you were getting. Then all your taxes and garnishments, and I say garnishments, we're not going to talk a lot about garnishments. Taxes, pre-tax income, all this other stuff, all of that gets taken out. Then what you have left over is what's called your net pay. That's the money that you have to spend. So that is like your disposable income. Your disposable income is the money you actually have in your account that you can spend. Then after you pay all of your bills and your rent, your car and all that, anything you have left over at that point, that's your discretionary income. But payroll deductions, all right, lower your disposable income. The more money you make, all right, they're still taking out taxes and stuff, but the more money you make, the larger the amount of your net income. So making more money obviously increases your disposable income, but payroll deductions themselves decrease your disposable income, the amount of money you have to spend. So that's the question here. How do payroll deductions affect an employee's disposable income? Because your disposable income is pretty much your net income. So pause me, answer that completely, and we're moving on. Okay, so let's talk about your taxes that are withheld. And I think I've used this picture here before. This is old Jane's business, payroll check. So salary, say you made $500 this week working at this job. So you get salary $500, hooray. However, there's a bunch of stuff that gets taken out of this. Your federal gets withheld, Social Security, and it's at 6.2%. That's universal. We'll talk about that in a second. Medicare, 1.45. That's all money that gets taken out before you even touch it. They have state disability insurance, state withholding, and we'll talk about some versions of that here in a second. But the net pay is $375. That's $125 or $124.22 that got taken out of your check that is going in taxes or withholdings that you do not have in your net pay to have for disposable income. This happens across the board, all right? This isn't like, oh, I'm not going to work at Jane's business. I'm not going to do that. This is universal, all right? The big reason for this course is a lot of people got caught off guard because they didn't know how to manage their money because they're trying to budget based on what their gross pay is. You got to budget on your net pay. Now, how much do I have to pay in taxes? Well, there's a tax rate schedule broken down. So a federal income tax is the largest tax. All right, and we're going to actually spend a lesson in this unit talking about what that pays for. Like where all this money that's going gets paid for. Today we're just talking about the money getting taken out. So if you make $8,000, all right, your tax rate is 10%. If you make $8,000 for the whole year, the federal government's going to take out 10% of that, so $800, and then your net pay would be $7,200. As you make more money, that percentage that you have to pay goes up. Now, I want to be very clear here on how these tax brackets work. If you make $30,000, you would be paying 12%, kind of. So you're actually going to be in two separate brackets. Your first $10,275 here, that gets taxed at 10%. Any money you make over that gets taxed at 12%. This way, because if not, if you made $10,200, then you'd pay 10%. But if you made $10,300 and you got taxed all at 12%, you would literally make less money earning $10,300 than you would $10,200. So for that reason, even the richest man in the world, if he's in the American economy, his first $10,000 he makes every year gets taxed at 10%. And then all the money after that gets taxed at a higher percentage to make it fair. So your income, how much federal taxes get taken out, depend very heavily on how much money you're making throughout the year. So how to calculate Social Security tax, all right? Social Security comes out all the time, all right? Social Security is 6.2% of your gross income, not your net income, 6.2 of your gross income. Not only that, your employer, whoever employs you, if you're making that paycheck, they also have to pay 6.2%, which is a massive amount of money that's being paid into Social Security. Social Security, the idea, I'll be super simple with it, we'll talk about it later, is it's like a retirement plan for when you turn 65. You get money from the government and you don't have to work anymore. That's the idea. Doesn't really work like that in practice. We have mentioned in the past it's not that much money. Also, the money that's coming out of your paycheck now is not going to a savings account for you for the future. You're currently paying for people that are currently retired. So the hope is when you're retired, there's enough people working that they can fund your Social Security. So they're not saving this money for you that's coming out. You are currently paying for retired people on Social Security today. But 6.2% of your whole paycheck goes to Social Security. There's no questions on that. Medicare is health insurance for older people. I may have said Medicaid earlier. Medicaid is a whole another thing. But Medicare, you have to pay 1.45%, and your employer, in addition to you paying it, also has to pay that amount. So what this is health insurance for elderly people. Which again, this does not go into a bank for you for when you're elderly. You're currently paying for older people's Medicare expenses now. So the hope is when when we get older and we need Medicare, there's enough people working and paying these taxes that our medical insurance will be covered. So sometimes you'll see FICA, and that was in the Jane's, Jane's store example I showed you a minute ago, and they said FICA. While in all my experience, I've always seen Social Security and Medicare broken down separately on my paychecks. And again, it's on every paycheck. This isn't something random that might happen to you. It is on your paycheck. So FICA is, if it's Social Security and Medicare combined, is literally the same thing. If it's FICA, they just merge those two together, is the exact same amount. But if you see FICA, you're not going to see Social Security and Medicare. You're either going to see FICA or you're going to see Social Security and Medicare. So the question here is, what is the purpose of a tax rate schedule? So if you had me for civics and we talked about the 16th Amendment with the progressive income tax, you probably already know this pretty well. The idea of a tax rate schedule is if you're not making a lot of money, the government doesn't want to ruin you by taxing you to death, all right? So if you make less money, you pay a less percentage in taxes. If you're making millions of dollars a year, you're not struggling to put food on the table. All right. So the government views that as an opportunity to tax people that are very wealthy at a higher tax rate. And it's a progressive income tax. So the tax rate schedule tries to make taxes as fair as possible, because the people that are only making $8,000 a year, the government wants to take as little from them as possible so that they can survive. Whereas people that are making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year should get paid more. However, to keep it fair, everybody at those different levels pays the same amount of tax. So even a guy making $1 million a year still only pays a really small amount of taxes on his first $10,000, more on the next, and then as it goes up. That way it's as fair as possible for everybody. So answer me completely, pause me, we're moving on. All right, so you're probably already super bummed, and welcome to adulthood. It's not fun. Famous saying is, two things are inevitable, death and taxes. And we're talking about taxes. A lot of other social studies classes I teach talk about the other one. But here, talking about taxes. So you're like, oh my gosh, that's is it over? Is that all the taxes? So pretty much those are the taxes that get taken out. But we're going to talk about pre-tax deductions. This is going to sound crazy, all right? It's going to sound absolutely crazy to you, but hear me through. You can choose to have more money taken out of your paycheck before you ever touch your money. And you're like, no, just skip this part. Don't need to hear about this. This is actually really important. This is adulting. Adulting is hard. It really is. So what a pre-tax deduction is money that you can choose to have taken out of your gross pay before taxes are implemented. By doing so, all right, if you go ahead and have money taken out before they hit you with taxes, say, I'm making this up right now, say you have a $1,000 paycheck, but you want to have $200 taken out in pre-tax deductions, all right, then when you take that money out, you only have $800 of gross pay, then you get taxed on $800, not taxed on $1,000. So it actually lowers your taxable income to have this stuff taken out first. So this stuff is stuff you can choose to have taken out before you even get taxed, which in the long run actually saves you money because you have to pay your taxes anyway. If these are things that are beneficial to you, and they are, then you need to do these as a pre-tax deduction. Here's what I'm saying. All right. So I probably should have started with this picture here, all right? So the top right, this is pre-tax and post-tax, all right? If you notice, all right, that pre-tax, both of these situations, bi-weekly means every other week, they're making $1,250. The one on the left, all right, that is pre-tax, is having stuff taken out, like their HMO premium, which is your health plan. That's probably dental, I would assume, their premium. We're going to talk about what that is. They take that out, so their actual taxable income is $1,159. So they took out $90, all right, $90 of stuff before they were taxed, all right. And by doing that, then when they get hit with the taxes, they have to pay less taxes purely because they have a lower taxable income than if they had not taken it out. They're still going to spend money, all right? However, by taking it out before your taxes, it is a huge tax break for you. So, not everything is pre-taxed. So again, you're not getting away from federal income tax, state income tax, Medicare, Social Security, or FICA. FICA, as I'm starting to teach this, I truly don't know. FICA, I know it's not called that. Anywho, I'm going to stop making a fool of myself. Pre-tax common deductions. These are things that are commonly capable of being taken out before you get hit with taxes, all right? And these are all optional. None of these are mandatory. One of the most common is your retirement plan, a 401k. A 401k is the most common form of retirement plan out there. So the definition is a defined contribution tax advantage retirement savings plan that is sponsored by one's employer, all right? Basically, we'll start out real simple here. You have money taken out of your paycheck while you're working your whole life, and it is going in a little bank. This one is going for you, and it is growing so that you can retire and you don't have to work anymore and you can live off that money. All right. 401k is a very specific type of retirement plan because two big benefits of a 401k, and it is super common. A 401k is when you contribute to a 401k, not only is that tax deductible or basically lowers your taxable income because it's a pre-tax deduction, all right? So hooray, comes out of your paycheck before they hit you with taxes. Number two, your employer matches whatever you're putting in. So if you take out $75 every paycheck and put it in retirement, your employer is matching that. $75 is $75, all right? So if your company offers a 401k, it's a very, very good contribution. And then it sits there and they invest it, people that run the 401k invest it, and it grows into more money than that as you continue to contribute. So hopefully that you can retire when you're in your 60s, because relying on Social Security alone is not going to allow you to retire. All right, and we'll be able to take your 401k and your Social Security. That is how people were able to actually retire. So you have to start this early on. Can't wait. All right. So 401k is what you would create if you work for a company that offers it, and most big companies offer a 401k. The other option is an IRA. It doesn't offer as many tax benefits, but an IRA is the same general concept. I'm going to way simplify this. Same general concept as a 401k, but if you're self-employed. Like, I don't work for anybody. I'm a successful photographer. I work for myself. You would have an IRA, and it's set up a little different. It doesn't have as many tax advantages as a 401k does, but it is what's set up a lot of times for self-employed people so that they can create a retirement account as well. So the biggest thing about pre-tax deductions, all right, like your 401k, and we're going to talk about more here, is that it lowers your taxable income, all right? It lowers your gross pay. So all of these expenses, like your 401k that you're paying for, you're paying your premiums on it, that comes out before you get hit with taxes, so it lowers your taxable income. So they're all by choice, but it lowers your taxable income and helps you pay less taxes overall. So the question is, what is the purpose of pre-tax deductions? We just talked about that, so pause me. Now, I also want to point out that the government knows like what is allowed as a pre-tax deduction. Like they've approved these things. So the government's like, okay, we understand the need of a retirement plan. So the government approves all these things. This is all in the up and up. This isn't like a shady loophole or anything. The government is very, very involved in allowing these pre-tax deductions. But pause me, answer that completely, and we're moving on. All right, so insurance premiums as a deduction is also extremely common and very important. So I want to go a little bit out of the realm here. So you have to pay for health insurance, all right, every month. You need to. Like, I'm not going to. If you don't pay for health insurance, all right, just to give you an example, take a guess. And it's 2023, how much it costs to have a baby. Take a guess. If you don't have health insurance and you go to the hospital and say, hey, I'm going into labor, or, my wife is going into labor, how much do you think something that cavemen have done, all right, because it's a natural process, how much do you think it costs to have a baby? At the medical, I'll wait because you're probably not going to guess. It's about $30,000. $30,000 to have a baby if you don't have health insurance. All right. This is why health insurance is really, really necessary. Everything is wildly expensive. One car accident, if you don't have health insurance, can ruin you financially for the rest of your life. Health insurance is an absolute necessity. So as you pay for health insurance, that can come out pre-tax in your paychecks as well. All right. What you're paying is you're paying the health insurance premium when that comes out. Health insurance in general is complicated, all right? And I wish there was a whole unit here on how health insurance works because it is complicated. I'm going to try to simplify it here as much as I can for you. So, and health insurance is not necessarily cheap. Your premiums are what come out of your paycheck. It is basically like your subscription to the health insurance. So if you want, and I'm jumping here to life insurance, we'll get there in a second. So let's talk about back here to health insurance, jumping all around. So just because, and you might pay $200 a month for health insurance, all right? Okay, good. Well, at least if I get hurt, I have health insurance. Yes, you do. However, that doesn't actually pay for all of your bills. If you got in a really bad car accident and you went and you were in a hospital, even if you have really good health insurance, you could still have to pay like $5,000 out of pocket to make up that gap in between what the insurance pays and what they expect you to pay. So kind of imagine it like your insurance premium is like paying for Amazon Prime. Yeah, you're paying a subscription to Amazon Prime, so you get all these discounts and all these benefits. However, that doesn't actually cover stuff from Amazon. You can't like buy stuff from Amazon for free because of Amazon Prime. But if you didn't have Amazon Prime, just imagine that you didn't have Amazon Prime and all the prices were like 6,000% higher. And you were required to buy things from Amazon. So just buying the premium is like your subscription to it, but you still have to pay. Health insurance in the United States is very complicated and it's stressful, but your premiums, they come out pre-tax deductions, all right? Life insurance premiums, and you're like, health insurance and life, is that not the same thing? No. So life insurance means, and you would probably want to take this out if you're like married, have kids, have family, and you have debt, and like they're relying on your income. The way this is beneficial is life insurance is if you die, if you have life insurance on you, and sometimes it's only like if you start young and pay it your whole life, it's only like $35 a month, not a bunch, for like $1 million of coverage. Meaning, so in this, if you're a 25-year-old female, $34 a month, if you die, whoever you have selected as your beneficiary who gets the money, they get $1 million. All right. This is helpful for husband and wives that are reliant on each other's income. So you take out life insurance and they both pay it. And that way if one dies, the other one gets a lump sum and helps keep them financially stable after you pass away. So life insurance is something that pays out after you die. And obviously if you wait older in life to create life insurance, the premiums go way up for logical reasons. Basically, that's talking about disability benefits is another thing that you can have taken off. So here, if you want $3,000 for a monthly benefit, you see the monthly premium cost. This is always interesting, all right? if you see, like down here, it's the same amount, it's $3,000 a month, and the premium cost goes all the way from like $259 all the way down to $31. Why is that? That's the waiting period. Meaning, if you can wait 90 days before your disability benefit kicks in, you only have to pay $31. However, if you want it immediately in case something happens, like you get hurt at work or something like that, then you have to pay a much higher premium. But the question here is, what are insurance premiums? Insurance premiums are basically your subscription fees to having insurance. And insurance is still expensive. But if you don't have insurance, one trip to the emergency room can bankrupt you. So health insurance is absolutely a necessity, and you have to pay that with your own money. We don't have any national health insurance set up here in the United States. So it's not paid for with taxes, but it is a pre-tax deduction. All right, answer that completely. We're moving on. So other possible deductions. The FSA, a flexible spending account. So had I started with this, you'd have been like, no way in the world am I ever going to use that. All right, but here's how it works. A flexible spending account, remember, so you have health insurance. Say you get in an accident and you have to pay $5,000 out of your own pocket. Or, more logically, say you know you have to have knee surgery coming up. So the insurance will pay a bunch of it, but you're expected to pay like your deductible, which could be $5,000 out of pocket before it'll pay for everything else. Just making numbers up, every insurance is different, but that's about the standard. So while it might be a $300,000 surgery, you only have to pay $5,000 out of pocket. When you look at it like that, you're like, cool. But then you're also like, that's still $5,000. How am I going to afford that? This is where flexible spending accounts come in, and the main benefit to these is they are a pre-tax deduction. If you know you need $5,000, all right, so you're like, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm going to take $500 out of my paycheck every month for the next 10 months, all right, and that way I have $5,000 set aside for this knee surgery I need. You can create a flexible spending account, which is a pre-tax. So that $500 that comes out is that pre-tax, and flexible spending accounts are really good for filling in that gap between what insurance will pay for and what you're responsible for. So a flexible spending account helps pay your deductibles and things on health insurance, and since it's pre-tax, is deducted pre-tax, it makes more money, and it lowers your taxable rate. So you start taking these out and you can really get your taxable income down lower and put you in a lower tax bracket. At union dues. So in North Carolina, we don't have union dues, but these are also, there are certain states that have unions, you have mandated union dues depending on your job. These can also be taken out of your paycheck. But here in North Carolina, we don't have unions, so this isn't something that I am personally familiar with. So let's start here with, or end here with something very realistic. This is a pay stub. This is somebody that makes $18 an hour and $27 an hour overtime, all right, time and a half, all right. This person worked 42 hours. 40 hours, they got paid $18 an hour, and 2 hours at $54 an hour. Their gross earnings were $774 for this week. Hooray, high five, slap hands. However, their federal got taken out, Social Security, Medicare. This is a California withholding state, California stuff. Their 401k they contributed to, all of that came out. Their total deductions for that paycheck is $213, meaning they bring home $560. All right, made $774, brought home $560. This is extremely common, typical paycheck that you're going to see. Just because it says you're going to make this amount of money doesn't mean that's how much money you're going to make, because your net pay is what is your disposable income. So the question is, what is the benefit of contributing to a flexible spending account as it pertains to pre-tax dollars? What does it do to your taxable income if you're contributing to these flexible spending accounts? So pause me if you need to answer that completely, but that's what I got for you guys today. See y'all tomorrow.